Thanks, John. Whoa. Are we all good? Sorry, we're a little bit late starting with the stream setup tonight. Are we all good? Yeah, so my name's Troy. Airstream, I'll give you a bit of background on Airstream and how we came to be, how long we've been around. How many people have actually heard of Airstream? Just a quick show of hands. Thank you. Okay, that's awesome. Just a bit of background then, I won't take too long, but we founded in 2002. The club kind of evolved out of a bunch of dudes online, you know, trying to think about how we can overcome the fact that broadband in Adelaide was just not happening at the time. This was back before kind of ADSL rollout, and back then it was all about bandwidth. You know, how can we get a decent connection between you and me, and we want to do all this cool stuff. What's available. At the time, there wasn't a lot available, but we got some, we heard a bit about people hacking some wireless devices that used to go into the old laptops, the old PCMCIA stuff, and we thought that's right up our alley, so we started getting into that, and we used to build these routers that were basically a Frankenstein computer with some laptop cards in it and a bunch of coax cables connected to your roof, with a Pringles can on the roof. So that's how it all started. Today it's a very different story. We've got off-the-shelf equipment now by Ubiquiti and Microtik and other vendors that is just, it's world-class by comparison. A lot of our members still like to do the tinkering, and we still accommodate that in our club. But generally the focus was on, you know, how do we use this technology? How do we create a group of people that want to learn more about this and teach each other, you know, some things, how we can achieve building a network, a high-speed network that's functional, that we can use, and most of all, it's free, right? So it really just evolved. Someone had a bright idea back in 2002 to incorporate. I was one of those people at the time. Not many of them are still around either, but yeah, since then we've really grown into a dynamic group of people, really, from all walks of life and all different kinds of interests. The club's always tried to involve other community groups as well, and specifically if they have some sort of project or initiative, some kind of problem they're trying to solve, connecting to locations remotely, or you know, this is obviously a perfect example with the LoRaWAN stuff. So that's really where we're at, and over the years we've got a number of different projects under our belt. That's a bit of an example of our coverage map. Some of the more prominent nodes, the larger ones on there, are through collaboration with other groups, Surf Life Saving, SA Group Enterprises way back when, many others I'm probably forgetting right now. Many of the amateur radio clubs as well have contributed locations on that map. Very prominent one up the top there at the Elizabeth Water Tower, which is part of the Elizabeth Amateur Radio Club. Yeah, and we try to maintain those relationships going forward. A lot of the members have an interest in what we do, as well as the amateur radio stuff. So yeah, it's really cool. We find synergies with a lot of different clubs. So what else is there that's interesting? The largest community wireless network in South Australia, as far as we know. Self-titled, but we're pretty damn sure that that is the case still. And also importantly is this network is 100% meshed. So each of those nodes talks to multiple other nodes. We use standard internet routing protocols and technologies. Pretty much everything is used on the internet we use to build the network. And that makes it a resilient, fault-tolerant network, much like the internet. However, it's completely independent from the internet, and it can function indefinitely without any internet at all. Some of these nodes are even battery powered and solar powered and all kinds of things. So it's very cool, and a lot of that, well, pretty much everything you see there has been contributions from our members and the general public. The club itself funds many of these nodes as well, but obviously we rely on volunteers to actually do the deployments and skilled people to do stuff like mast climbing and electrical compliance, things like that. So our membership covers a lot of those fields, and that's really useful. So moving forward, skipping 12 or 13 years, we've also been involved with the Maker Fairs, and that's how I got in touch with Leo one year. I think it was actually thanks to Robert Hart, who was also present, and I'll be telling you more about him soon. But Leo mentioned at the time he was doing the project where they were monitoring the bird nests in the boxes, and I think he himself was kind of experimenting with LoRaWAN and these types of technologies back then. And that sowed a bit of a seed there in both of our minds, but that kind of went by the wayside for a few years until more recently, about mid-2018, when we got in touch again and thought, maybe time to try doing something together, finding a way that Airstream and the Growing Data Foundation can help each other, basically. Now, we're always looking for new, interesting things. LoRaWAN is right up our alley. Many of our members were instantly turned on by the idea of having something new like that to play with, so there was no worries about that. But most importantly, the synergy between our groups was obvious, and the fact that you guys have a desire to make this LoRaWAN gateway network across the metro and obviously regional areas as well seemed like something we could really help you to enable. And if you have a look at our map there, we've obviously got some decent areas around the place that would assist. So it was pretty obvious, the relationship and how that could work. And we agreed to do an initial trial. One of our most prominent sites in the south, which is that big one down the bottom there, is on a site called Cement Hill, which I'll introduce you to shortly. We decided that'd be a great way to trial it. There wasn't a lot of coverage at the time. You guys didn't have too many nodes deployed in that area, and plus the outlook from there is pretty awesome. And we did that. I'll show you some slides on that in a moment. That went really well. Since that time, we've now got another 2 up and running with some help from Robert and some other people as well. And we, there's no stopping us really. We're really keen to keep it going. We've got a lot of members now that are involved. Sebi's also here tonight. He contributed his personal Airstream node to host one of the donated devices, and I'll show you more of that as well. But yeah, it's a really cool concept. A lot of crossover in the club, so it seems really natural. This is the Cement Hill site. Give you some idea of how awesome it is. That's the view towards the city. As far as our network goes, this is one of our core nodes. The transit path going down south, you can see that there's really only 1 or 2 nodes there that carry all the traffic from the lower half up to the northern half. So this is one of those nodes. I think, what year did we establish Cement Hill? It's got to be 8 or 10 years by now. 2014? Okay, I thought it might have been earlier than that. So myself, Andrew and Tony, a few other guys went down there one day. Leo gave us one of the multi-tech units that they had spare from one of their other sites, and we set that up. It was pretty easy to do. Here's some shots of the install in progress. There's John up on the mast. He was actually adjusting some other equipment at the time as well. But if you see down the bottom here, that's the new LoRaWAN antenna, 915 megahertz. Put a new outrigger there for that one. So pretty sweet setup. Inside, nothing too amazing. There's your multi-tech and some of our other routers that were already on site at the time. You can see there some of the existing equipment. This site also hosts a lot of UHF and other radio equipment for surf lifesaving, and I think some taxis and other things as well. Yeah, so it's a pretty prominent location and gets out really good. So this will give you a better idea. This is a shot from the TTN Mapper site, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Some of the data collected from the Cement Hill node, and you can see it's just ridiculous how far down south it's getting. Coverage throughout the city and even out to the port there is really good as well. So we were really impressed with that for the initial setup. Jumping to the next one. So yeah, that was our first attempt and that was our trial, and it pretty much cemented the idea with us. Forgive me the pun there, but that this was a really great idea and we should really pursue this. So Wasn't long before we had some more opportunities arise. Robert Hart has recently taken a new position with Port Adelaide Enfield Council and the libraries more specifically. Robert's here tonight if you want to have a chat to him. But he's quite focused on the LoRaWAN tech as well, and he's trying to organise training sessions and learning opportunities for the younger technical-minded people through the libraries and with the resources they offer. So having the LoRaWAN technology available is really something key to, having your own gateway there is something cool if you want to do some experimentation. So this one, the Cement Hill was online in April, I think it was, and this was completely funded and provided by Robert. We contributed, I think, some of the radio equipment and as far as getting the backhaul link into the rest of our network online. It's kind of an initial build at the moment. It's functional, but I think we've got the opportunity to probably tweak it a bit more. So yeah, Robert's been a long-time member. This is a LoRix 1 device, as distinct from the multi-tech that we deployed at Cement Hill. This is one of the newer ones that's recently come on the market. Again, you guys are probably quite familiar with it. And we weren't sure what to expect, I guess. I think we're using the same antenna that we did at Cement Hill. But ultimately, it worked out pretty awesome. There's some other shots of the mounting. So Airstream provided expertise as far as working at heights, rigging the mast and the antennas, electrical cabling, networking, and ultimately the backhaul connection into our greater network, from which this node can now get out to the greater internet and the TTN servers. There's a shot of the LoRix unit before it went up on the mast. And some coverage from Greenacres as well. I think that was from when Leo did a bit of a drive down to Carrikalinga. So pretty impressive that it picks that up from there. I'm not sure what's going on with topology of the Earth, but apparently that works. But you can see, even the LoRix unit there at Greenacres getting pretty good coverage across the metro area and even out north. So these are not conclusive, obviously. This is only picking up pings as people have been driving around with the app running, but still pretty cool, and we were quite happy with that. Seaton. So this is our most recent one, and this came out of yet another donated unit that Leo and John had spare. We basically put it out to our members at one of our meetings. We have monthly meetings within the Airstream group, and said, hey, do any of you guys want to host one of these LoRaWAN nodes at your existing site? So Sebi kindly volunteered, and within a matter of weeks, we had the rest of the equipment he needed to get it operational. This is not the final build. This is pretty much just a quick setup that he got going so that we could get a better idea of how well this one would get out. So Seaton is obviously not high elevation or anything. It's out there in the Western Plains. And we weren't really sure, but we knew that that was a potential black spot with your current coverage. So it's a good idea. Is that me doing that? Yeah, so 31st of July, we finally got that one online. There's some of the gear and where it's currently living in a roof space somewhere. Again, this is all pretty temporary, but this is kind of how we did things back in the day when we wanted to experiment. So we're all about experimenting. Yeah, as you can see though, very good position for getting out there. And I think that's probably one of the most Western gateways that you've got available right now. So we're keen to see a bit more coverage from up around Port Adelaide as well on that one, see if it's getting out in that region. These were some other drives that Leo uploaded one day onto the Slack channel. That was where he went down south for a big long drive, but even that one picking up Seaton across the ocean there, so that's pretty cool as well. And some of the other nodes that you can see around the place, the other gateways that are available. So yeah. that's the meat of my presentation, which I got to admit I put this together pretty quickly, so apologies. That it was really just trying to give you a visual representation of some of the stuff we've been doing. But yeah, we are definitely looking forward to some future projects. We've already got other node operators that are quite interested in getting into this technology, so we're also keen to hear more about Tony with his DIY kind of gateway unit as well. That's right up our alley. But yeah, you know, if you're interested at all in networking, computers, technology, we offer a great knowledge base and skill base. So please get in touch with us if you're interested, or if you want further information. Otherwise, you can catch us at the upcoming conference later in the year. So thanks, guys. Do you want to do a quick question thing before we go? Anyone's got any burning immediate questions? Yep. Okay, so Airstream as a community network organisation, or whatever you want to call it, we don't strictly provide internet access. So as I mentioned at the start, you know, the whole focus of Airstream is to be complementary to the internet, but also independent from it. So members obviously can set up technologies like VPN and things across the network to share resources, share internet, share whatever they want, really. And that's basically how this has been achieved. So Leo, other GDF operators and node operators, gateway operators themselves, as long as they've got somewhere on the network that they can pull an internet connection from, the network provides them with the layer that lets them get that connection going, right? So it's not, you know, it's not something you plug into and you just get automatic internet, but it enables you to do that if you wish.
So in this context, it's not Airstream provided functions.
No, exactly right. So there's 100% members doing their thing, yeah. And in the case of Sebi's node, you know, I know he's got an internet connection, so just as happily he could run that straight out through his network or through a central point if that is so decided by them. But yeah, it's really just about enabling people to do what they would love to do on the internet if they owned it, if you get my drift. So
one of the problems we found is that we talk to an organisation and their security people start putting up firewalls and saying, no, you can't access the internet, even though when you actually plug one in and show them what the traffic is that they're buying. So this is a way to get around that problem as well, so you're passing it off somewhere else. So.
And
yeah,
in
definitely.
the libraries, you know, public network, but a lot of security layers put on top of proxy authentications or whatever. And it's difficult to run a reliable node, gateway node, if you've got all these proxies in between.
That's right. So using this technology, we're opening up so many more possibilities for locations for gateways.
And awesome. Obvious benefit as well, the redundancy. You know, you can have multiple exit points for getting to the TTN gateway, the servers, and have it fail over gracefully so that, you know, you're not actually relying on any one individual connection. There's also been talk about, you know, we'd love to have an SA hosted TTN server. So someday that may become a reality, which means, you know, that's not even a problem anymore. All your data becomes local straight into the server, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, any volunteers for that one as well? Yeah, get in touch. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yep.
Okay, so this is Leo driving around. We've got a testing unit, which is basically you hit the button and it sends location and the GPS inside the device and temperature. And that sends out to the TTN mapper. So anything that's registered against that application shows up as a ping here. So this is where all this data is coming from. So what sort of antenna are you using on that? No, it's just I'm not sure about the antenna technology itself, but the device itself is about that big.
Yeah.
It's a handheld testing.
Nothing massively high gain or anything.
So
it's just
in fact,
everything.
what you're doing is you're driving around with your hand out the window, pushing a button. Or in a plane and ruining our map, which is what Leo did.
Or a boat. I think someone was in a boat as well, hovering around.
That's Leo.
Oh, all right, okay.
Hey?
I don't think it happened in there.
The boat. It was a boat.
No, Leo wanted to get something out of the boat, but I don't think it happened.
No.
Oh, right.
The stuff you see on the map from the middle of the Gulf is from the plane.
Did you have questions?
So what's a typical usage case, you know, for people to use this network?
I think honestly, the primary usage is just experimentation and learning. To set up an Airstream node and have it connected to the rest of the network, you've obviously got to learn all about routing protocols, wireless networking protocols and security, all the considerations of having a node, or a connection into a public network, essentially. You've got to think about the security implications. A lot of people then set up dual routers with their internet and an Airstream router, or they try and configure the one to do both. So there's all that software configuration side of it, as well as the conceptual stuff. But once you've got that running, you can pretty much use it for anything you would use the internet for. You could host your own services. You could have a look around and see what else other people are hosting. Obvious things like gaming and file sharing and all that streaming type stuff. I think at one point we even streamed some of my meetings, video live streaming over it from where we have our meeting location. But it's different for everyone. But I think the real initial, the draw card is that people just want to learn more, and they want to be able to experiment with what is essentially the internet. But obviously your ISP doesn't let you screw around with their routers, okay? So we're the opposite. Expect nothing to work ever. It's just, it's a free-for-all. We have a core network and a network team that administers that. So the people that are really interested in that stuff, they jump in and get on the network team. They want to learn more. They want to get into documentation and configs and all that type of thing. So it's great for that. But the more we do that, the more stable the network becomes. And these things are always breaking anyway. So there's constant maintenance and stuff to do. Going.
Supplementary question if I may. So what's the actual, the transport link? Is it all LoRa or is it Wi-Fi?
No. So this is Wi-Fi, 100% Wi-Fi. Yeah. So Wi-Fi operating on 2.4 and 5.8, the ISM bands. The 915 range that the LoRa uses is also ISM, which means it's a class license. You can use it as long as you obey by certain rules that are set out by the ACMA. And they're really just emission, sensible emission levels and stuff like that, sensible usage, and it's a shared spectrum. So it's a public park concept where you've got to be a good player in the park, basically. But Airstream is primarily Wi-Fi. We've experimented with other things. We've actually had some 900 megahertz Wi-Fi links as well, using 915 equipment that does data. More high bandwidth than what LoRa is, essentially, but that isn't actually that great, so we don't do a lot of that anymore. However, the 915 is perfect for LoRa, where you don't have things like guaranteed delivery and bandwidth requirements, It's perfect for that. So, that's how it goes, and that's why it's such a great, concept to use something like Airstream for this stuff. Anything else, guys?
Right.
Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Troy. I really think this partnership between the GDF and Airstream is unique, as far as I can tell, and I really think it's going to be awesome going forward. Now, our next speaker is Tony. Tony, do you need to get anything ready? You ready to roll? So Tony's spoken before about some of his, I'm not going to say DIY. We're all lucky to have Tony here tonight. Tony's flying off to England later in the year to present at the TTN in UK. Is that right? So this is a teaser.
Yes.
So you can either fly to England or you can come along to the conference in Adelaide later on. I know which one's cheaper. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks. So, if you don't know what I've been doing for the last year, it's this. I've been putting up nodes in the Coonawarra with an idea of a different way of looking at plant health. So instead of putting soil moisture probes in the soil, we're looking at the leaves with a camera and transmitting back by LoRa. But that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing for the last year. And that's been working quite successfully. but I needed a base station or a gateway. And the problem with that gateway is it's 4 hours from here, and I needed technical expertise to install it. If I sent it down there in a package, it would not get installed. So all the pipe had to be bolted to the handrail, then we had to put the box on it, then put the radio unit in the box, put the antenna cable on, bolt the... And a bit what we're just seeing with Airstream, if you've got people who know what they're doing, it works fine. But I wanted to send this without any technical expertise at all. So there's a shot from on top of the tanks, and the Coonawarra is absolutely flat, and we're getting good 10 or 15 kilometre range, quite reliable.
That's Laura.
Laura, yes, 915. So the issue here is, and I've listed there, but I've sort of gone through that, is all those bits and pieces had to be transported separately and assembled on site. I put it on the back of the ute, but if I took it assembled, it probably wouldn't get there in one piece. And in fact, with the same applied to the nodes, we probably spent a full day, about 3 of us, assembling all the nodes and the gateway. So my vision is that we need to eliminate all of that labour. We could basically post a gateway in a package and say to someone, install it. Now I've been playing around with a gateway like this, which is a full Raspberry Pi and a Rack 813 gateway, and that gives quite good coverage. It's got a high gain antenna on the top, and that's been running for about probably 18 months now. Doesn't miss a beat. And really I want to do that, but make it more miniature. This thing still needed a high gain antenna. It needed a lot of expertise to assemble it. So my aim was, I want to go one step better. And even when we look at that Lorix 1, which is sort of a packaged unit, you see that there was an antenna screwed to the top. There was sealing tape to seal the joint. And if you send that sort of thing to someone who does not understand RF, they'll forget to put the tape on. They won't put it on properly. And they'll do, all those sort of things. Is a big difference between success and failure. So what I wanted to do was I came up with a design brief, and it was simple to package and transport. And that was my number one driver. I've got to be able to put it in a box and send it, and the person receiving it can plug it in. They've got no RF knowledge, no network knowledge at all. I wanted to sit on the top of a pole or on a side-mounted arm. I'm using BSP threads, so there's nothing special about the connections. I'm not having to make up special adapters. It sits in full sun at 45 degrees C ambient, so it's 45 degrees plus sun load. I can remotely manage it, so I can remotely update it, and I can actually watch what's going on inside the unit over and above what Laura's doing. There's future packet forwarders coming with the advent of Semtech releasing new basic station 4. And so where we've got things like solar applications, I needed to be able to monitor the battery voltage on a solar system, so I can look at the whole installation, not just what Laura's doing. And I've also got other I/O, so I can actually control things. I could turn a fan on, I can switch things on and off. But equally, if I've got actually an internet connection there, why don't I put a weather station there as well? So I need a weather station. And one of the things we actually looked at last year was, wouldn't it be nice to actually look outside, what's it actually doing? So hence a camera. So that was my brief. So what did I come up with? So the idea was we'd put an antenna, a Raspberry Pi and a LoRa radio in the one package, and I'd seal it. So there's no antenna connections, it goes fully assembled. By putting the antenna smack on top of the radio unit, I've got no cable loss. So I can afford to lose a dB or two in antenna gain by eliminating my cable. And a number of the high gain antennas, because I've done a lot of range plotting of antenna gain, you'll find that while they plot them as, say, 5 or 6 dBm, or 6 dBi, it's not uniform in direction, and it can dip as about 4.5. So you've typically only got about 1.5 dB gain over an isotropic radiator. And what I've got matches that. So I've actually got a uniform radiator, and I think I'm as good as a high gain antenna with a cable. I'm doing full PoE, and we can put solar onto that. And I can also do 3G or 4G if I wanted to. And there's a number of applications in rural areas where they'll talk about birds. So by putting the cable down, the supply cable down the pole, I can get full protection. So there's over and above what I'm doing in LoRa, this is my control panel where I'm actually looking at. So on the right-hand side, I've got some graphs about performance. On the left-hand side, I've got some simple go, no-go alarm systems. And this thing will actually email me or page me, by Slack or whatever. So I actually know what's going on. I get an alarm immediately. So I've got my weather station down the bottom, and that ticks away quite happily. So, why don't we have a look at it? So that's a full gateway. I'll just pop it open. No, not sorry about that. No surprises? So what we've got on the bottom is a Ethernet connection with a PoE power supply, and above it is a Raspberry Pi Zero. Now Pi Zero's got a problem; it's got no Ethernet connection, so I had to build my own. But it allowed me to do a very compact PoE system.
So is that a USB connected Ethernet?
No. It's. I had to write my own drivers in the Pi to actually make it work.
Right.
So that the SPI port runs the radio unit at the top. So I had to come in with another driver and come in another way, and that works quite well. There's a temperature sensor in here, and a series of connectors on the back for I/O, and a very simple antenna. It's a simple dipole antenna, printed circuit board mounted, or a PCB antenna. It's quite uniform in its radiation pattern, so I can actually rotate that when I do field testing, and it's absolutely uniform. It's using a RAC 2245 gateway unit, but this is what they call the stamp version, which is there's got no circuit board, so I actually have to solder that directly to my circuit board. It's a very simple design. It took more effort in the packaging than it did the electronics and software. But that's been running. This is probably the third version of this now. I made a few mistakes in the second circuit, the PCB, but I can turn that around in 7 days now. And I've already got the next version planned out. But it's quite a simple looking solution. So all you do is put a Ethernet connection in the bottom, and away it'll go.
So power over Ethernet connection?
Yes. So there's two ways of doing PoE. You can either use DC up to spare wires, or you can put it over the two Ethernet connections as a phantom connection, and this will handle either. And it's tolerant to either either polarity, and it will also handshake with a PoE injector. So a lot of injectors or particularly switches won't put 48 volts on the line until this thing signals, and this thing is fully compliant. Sorry?
At 11 AF?
I lose track of all the... I just was determined to make it work. So, and we'll find out, won't we? But so I think it meets my requirement of I should be able to just package this up, put it in a box, and send it off, and someone should be able to plug it in. But the old thing about you get it to a site and it doesn't work, firewalls. There's a supplementary device with this which will actually give me an indication about why I can't see the internet, why I can't see the LoRa server, and that's coming out. It'll be something like a simple box with a series of LEDs on it, nothing complex, and it'll just tell you I got this far in the connection process, and this is the problem. This is what you need to do, and I should be able to send that to. And I did this previously, but a very crude one. Sent it to site and said, plug this in and tell me what you get. So I want to refine that now as a tool that you can plug in and determine, yes, you've got connection, no, you don't, but more importantly, what's wrong, and therefore, who do you have to talk to and what do you have to tell them. So anyway, it's been a bit of fun. Yeah.
Tony, that's extremely impressive, and I think manufacturing in South Australia is in a good state if we can start developing for IoT instead of just using what other people want to give us. I think the Adelaide electronics industry has got going through a period of change after the automotive and industries left, so I think it's all looking really good. That's a very impressive piece of work you've got there. Okay, well, thanks everyone for coming tonight. Unless anyone's got some questions for Tony. I've got the registration here. If you haven't registered yet for the Things Conference, we're very excited about what's happening. Sorry? Oh yes, I will give you a little rundown on what I'm actually talking about. So the Things network obviously is one of our key focal points for the Growing Data Foundation and OpenData and Open Networks. We've managed to get Johan, one of the co-founders, to come out. He's the technical lead of the Things Network. So he's going to be part of a conference here on November the 19th. It's going to be a very exciting conference where we're in the process of actually finalising the structure of the conference, but we definitely know that Johan's going to be here to give the keynote. We're looking at other speakers, perhaps Tony as well, perhaps running some workshops as well. So what we want is for you guys to get involved, register your interest at this early stage, and that'll help us plan what we're going to deliver for the conference as well. So if you tell us what you want to see and what you want to hear about, look, we're very excited about it, and I think hopefully within the week or so we'll actually have the tickets on sale so you can really bed that down. But those dates are set in stone, and we're very excited. So I'm sure if Leo was here, he'd be here telling you all about it as well. He's up in the Riverland at the moment, driving back. We'll probably, with a focus on the conference, we'll probably have one or two more maybe meetups before that conference time, which is November, as I said. But if you've got any questions about anything to do with the TTN, just feel free to talk to us, talk to the wireless guys as well, the S3 Wireless. And really, thanks a lot for coming along. It's been a good turnout, and I think it's been a great couple of presentations. So can you put your hands together for Tony and Troy from S3?